Welcome back. Welcome back. Another episode of the Hawk Vision Podcast. I am your host, Chuck Hawkins, here to help you shorten the learning curve on your way to greatness. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe across all your social media platforms, especially here at YouTube. Most importantly, share this podcast with other visionaries just like you. Our guest today is not only a Hawk Vision alumni, but the last time we were together on the show, we asked the question, do women get men ready for the next woman, and got so many questions and comments that we finally were able to get back together on this episode so that we could help to dive into some of those questions and hopefully answer a few of them and probably create a few more. He is a best-selling author, one of the foremost authorities on relationships, speaker, certified life coach, relationship coach. He's been recognized as the writer of the year. He's won Writer's Choice Awards. He's got a community well over 10,000 people strong. You've seen him on multiple websites, killing it. Friend of the show, Mr. Xklusive, Troy Spry. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, boss man? Hey man, hey, I appreciate the introduction and I appreciate you for having me back on. I love being the second to come on a show because like the second time, I love being on the second time because then we get to really cut up.
Yeah. We throw all the filters out the window. You know, we can talk that talk. It's gonna be fun. Um, you're working on the second book. Let's get the formalities out the way. Working on the
Mhm.
third book. I'm sorry. Tell me how that process is going and what you're excited about on that project.
Oh yeah, so I mean, so my book series is like the Teach Me How to Love series, right? So first book was called Teach Me How to Love: A Man's Journey Toward and Through Marriage. That was my ebook. Then I did Teach Me How to Love: Why What You Don't Know Will Hurt You. And so the
Okay.
next one, I don't have the actual full title yet, but I know it's the trilogy. It's the
Okay.
trilogy, so
Okay.
it's Teach Me How to Love, and let's just say, this at this point, I'm going to talk more about what happens once you get into that relationship, right?
I
So
love it.
so one was the journey towards it, one was kind of dating and all that kind of stuff. And now it's like, okay, once you get in it, what's next?
Listen, that's where the work starts.
That's
That's
where it
where the work
starts.
starts. Once you're in the relationship, you know, like my dad used to say, you can interrupt a beautiful woman, but you got to give her a reason to smile. Once you give her a reason to smile, now you got to give her a reason to stay.
That's it. That's it. And it's gonna be a good book, man, because I've listened so much to the audience
Yeah.
about the pain points and the things they need clarity and communication about, and they need new information about, and I'm gonna give it to them. I can't wait.
I love it. I was recently a guest on Challenge Yourself podcast with a
Hmm.
good friend, Joy, and I was asked this question. I spoke about being a husband and running a business, on views on relationships, all that stuff, and it dawned on me that I've never heard any other man answer this question. So I'm going to ask you,
Hmm.
what's your favorite part about being a husband?
Ooh, my favorite part.
Yes,
Um, I
that the
think my
wife will let
favorite.
you say on a national
Oh,
podcast.
no, what she'll let me say. Okay. Um, I think my favorite part about being a husband is adding value. I mean, I think to me, I love the fact that as a husband, I get to add value to my wife. I get to add value to my daughter. It makes me feel significant. It makes me feel like I have purpose,
Yeah,
right? So I get to serve both of them in a capacity that says not only am I adding the value, but I'm building legacy. And so to me, that's the best part about being a husband for me.
I love it. I love it. See, and we have that in common. We both have daughters. So legacy matters a lot because I don't know about in your case, but for me, the name dies with
Hmm.
me, right? I'm the only
Yeah,
boy,
I know.
you know, the last like how does that part play in? Do you start to think about um you know, even for me, the podcast, my daughters can go back and listen. They can get thought processes. They can get,
Hmm.
you know, encouragement. They can get the game for business. Does that part come into play for you?
Oh, dude, I was just thinking about this other day when I was watching some of the royalties come in from my book,
Okay.
and I said, you do. I said, I now understand that my daughter would eat off this book, for the rest of her life. So not
Wow.
necessarily not just the money, but she will eat information wise. So
Yes.
she'll be able to do both things. So I think about that often, man. Like, what are the things I can put in place? Because you're right, I don't have a son, so it will die with me. It's a funny story. My dad, I remember when we had the gender reveal, my dad was hoping we had a son. And when I tell
Yeah.
you, you should see in the video, like when he saw a little girl, he was like, God darn it. Like you could tell he was upset. But now he loves her. Like he can't do without her now, without my
Yeah,
daughter. So anyway, it's just it's good. Yeah, I think about it the same way you think about it, brother.
man, there's no better hug at the end of the day than your daughter's hug, right? But there's
Yes.
always this, I don't know what it is. Like, and I tell my daughters, there's nothing missing. Like, I'm not gonna have another kid. That's out.
Yeah. It's
But
over.
yeah, that's over. Those days is done. My Costco membership does not require diapers, so that's
Hmm.
it. But there's this part of it whenever I think of legacy and whenever I think of building, there's this part that's like one of my daughters is not allowed to get married. I don't know which one it is,
Hmm.
but one of them just can't get it. Like it can't happen.
Hmm. Hey, I get it. I get it. It's like, you gotta be around to take care of daddy. That's what you need to be around doing.
Yes. Yes, I love it. I love it. One of the questions that we got from our last show is why do men find it easier to give undying, blind loyalty to other men, but never to a woman, regardless of how loyal she is with him?
Mm. Ooh, that's a deep question right there. That's
Listen,
a
I didn't
deep
even try to
question.
answer that when I just marked that one. I said, yeah, that's for Troy. I can't.
Hmm. So here's what I would argue though. I would argue that men that are mature and care about their emotion and they're mature and they have boundaries in their life,
Yeah.
they have boundaries with men too.
Yes.
I would argue that. I would argue that only time men have blind loyalty to people is when they don't have good boundaries and when they don't love themselves enough to say this is toxic for me or this is not good for me. So I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Now I do understand why women will say that. I do understand they'll say, "Oh, you show loyalty to your boy when you do your girl." Well, our relationships with our guy friends are totally different dynamics than the ones with our women.
Yeah.
They're two different dynamics. One is based around, activities. One's based around, testosterone and competitive
Yes.
nature. It's not all as emotional, at all. That's why we can
Right.
fight and still be friends.
Yes. Yeah.
You
You
see what
know
I mean?
what? When I got that question, it made me think of um, how loyal we are to our barbers.
Yes.
Right. Like I don't know about most men that I know. That's their longest relationship.
Uh
Right.
huh.
Is their
Uh huh.
barber. And so when I started to answer the question, even though I didn't go through with it, when I started to answer the question, it was okay. Well, I've known my barber, every week, 2 weeks out the month,
Hmm.
for 2, 3 hours at a time, talking about everything, not just how I feel about that one person. And, like you said, it expounds into so many different things that you gather thought processes. And I think it's hard for a new relationship
Hmm.
to challenge an existing 5, 10, 15-year relationship, right? When
Yes.
you're 3 months in, even up
Hmm.
to a year in, right? These
Hmm.
are people that have been around forever, whereas you so far have proven to be amazing, but still possibly temporary.
That's it. That's it. And it's it's funny. So I'll give you a funny story. I just essentially had a barber breakup. Um,
Oh no.
and not, but it wasn't a bad breakup, right? It was just one of these things where a friend of mine, moved up to the city that was cutting hair.
Okay.
But here's the thing. There was a couple things that she answered for me that he didn't. Like I was able to now, book my appointments on an app. I was able to pay on an app. That was more convenient, right? And the things
Yeah.
that I wasn't getting from from my bar, which is, the long wait and and all the other kind of. So you had these things going on that for me, as my life shifted, I
Yes.
needed more convenience.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean? So I wasn't going to inconvenience myself any longer to just be loyal. So that's what I was talking about when my first answer was like, once you start realizing how your life is changing and how the seasons are changing in your life, then it changes how you view the people around you and the friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think it's your answer, it triggers me to say that the longer you're with the person, the expectations change, right?
Hmm.
So in my experience, my barber now, I can pay him through Cash App or I can pay him
Hmm.
through PayPal. Similarly, versus my old barber, I would make the appointment, but I'd still be 30, 40 minutes late. And as you get older, you start to value your time more. And so I don't know if it's a thing where men have this undying love towards other men. I just think it's a different set of priorities
Hmm.
and a longer example of time. Is that
Yeah, absolutely. And
okay?
here's the thing. I guess we got to define loyalty too, right?
Yes.
When you really think about that, loyalty doesn't mean that in that time, maybe I had let a couple other people cut my hair. maybe I just always came back to that barber. Or
Right.
even my friends, like think about your friend group. It doesn't mean you never created other friends, and you have a couple of them that are standard,
Right.
that's gonna always be there. So I mean, I think I would just challenge women to think about that differently, about how they think about that, because I don't necessarily agree with the statement per se.
I love it. I love it. Do you think that the idea of being in love gets more attention than actually being in love? Like
Oh,
the idea of love, right? We see all these relationship shows we talked about last time,
hmm
and we see the relationship goals, the posts, and all that stuff.
hmm
And the me and somebody's son or me and somebody's daughter, we see all that stuff. Do you think that gets more attention than actually being in love?
dude. Absolutely. I think one of the most detrimental things to relationships is the idea of relationship versus the
Mm,
reality of it. I think that's one of the reasons that divorce rates are so high. It's the idea of the marriage versus the actual marriage. Because everybody gets caught up in everybody's highlight reel. Social media does that.
yes.
It's like, let's get caught up in their highlight reel. So you saw the relationship goals picture, but you didn't see the argument in the car before the picture. See what I mean? You
Yes.
didn't, you saw none of
Yes.
that, and so we don't share that stuff enough. And because we don't share it enough, people walk into these relationships thinking everything's relationship goals or
Yeah.
everything's a vacation. And guess what happens? Adulting happens, and then they
Yeah.
can't handle it because no one set them up. So we have these unrealistic expectations about relationship, and I think it's damaging to relationship.
I wonder what would happen if we started to post the argument picture,
hmm
right? Where she may be on the couch with her arms folded and I'm, pouring my double shot. Like, what happens if we start to post that? Because I think the first thing that comes to mind is you'll get the, oh, that's toxic. You'll get the
hmm
catchphrases, right? That's horrible. I wouldn't. But ultimately, it starts to normalize that there's not so many great days.
hmm
But
hmm
is that everybody's business,
That's the
right?
question, right? And judgment comes with that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what people fear is judgment, right? And so what I think, Chuck, I think that's why I think people respect journeys. You see what I mean?
Mm,
If I can see a journey of a people and not just one chapter, if I can see the journey of the full book, then I can make better assessment of what it really looks like to be in a relationship or to be in a marriage. But when
yeah.
I only show the highlights and when I only show the bad parts, now that's the other thing I have an issue with is people who only show the downside of a relationship. So they
Okay.
talk to their friends or they vent on social media. They always say
Yes.
something negative about relationships or about dating, or they talk to their friends and it's only about the bad things about their spouse.
Right.
Well, that's detrimental as well.
Yeah.
Both sides are
Yeah.
detrimental. So I think I respect journeys, right? So I always say, like, say I'm venting to a friend about something with my wife, right?
Yes.
I always have to find a way to bring something positive into it too, because I never want my friend having a view of my relationship like it's a negative one. It's just
Right.
for this
Right.
issue, I have a problem with this issue, right? But
Yeah.
my wife is still wonderful.
Absolutely. So to that point,
Mhm,
how does that work when you are? So for me, I'm going to put this on me. I love feedback, but
mhm,
because I'm so hard on myself, my wife
mhm,
will give me feedback sometimes, and there's things that I need to work on. I don't know I need to work on them, but once
mhm.
she says it, now I'm like, how dare you? How dare you tell
Sound
me
like
that I
me.
need to work on XYZ? Now, mind you, it's in the journal, it's written down, I got notifications. I know
Mhm.
I need to work on it. So to your point, how do you have that conversation with the spouse that you are amazing, but this is the one thing, that 80-20 rule,
Uh-huh.
right? This is
Absolutely.
the thing that I need you to work on, but it's not major, but since you asked, like, how does
Mhm.
that go?
To me, I'm all about isolating the issue. You know
Okay.
what I mean? What we tend to do when we have these conversations, we tend to uh, what we'll do is we'll kind of lay a bunch of things on the table, right? Well, you do this and you did that, and you do this and you did that. Well, no, here's the one topic of discussion I would love to discuss with you today, babe. Right here's one of the areas in which I see, that I could improve in this area, and maybe you could improve in this area. So it's
Yeah.
almost like taking dual accountability. I think that lightens the sting a little bit when you're going to criticize someone, which I don't even call it criticism. I really just call it opportunities for growth. you
Yeah.
know here here's
Yeah.
an opportunity for you to be better at XYZ. If we can learn how to speak that way and not use big words like always and never, and how to make our tones loving. If we make
Yes.
our tones loving, if I come to my wife from a place of love and say, hey, I'm concerned about you with this, because when you do this, this is what happens. So I've already kind of talked through it.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden she's in a receiving energy versus a, like defensive energy. And I think that's what happens is we end up with a defensive energy because of the way we talk to each other.
Man, I got the 85 Bears on mine sometimes. I
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
and I know it's not intentional, right? I think that we all come from this place where, and especially for men, I think it's harder for men to have those conversations because we know it's a two-part, right? We
yeah,
can have the conversation about the opportunity for growth, but
mm-hmm.
now we're also responsible for our wives' feelings, right?
Yes,
For how
yes,
they receive that. And so a lot of women will say, men don't tell us the truth because you think you're protecting me. We're protecting both of us because we don't
yes.
want to argue.
I don't want no smoke.
I don't want no smoke. We don't want to argue, and I don't want to be responsible for getting you back happy. Like,
Mm,
is that the right way to say that? I don't want to be responsible. Men don't want to be responsible for getting you back to happy when the
yes.
conversation is one that you wanted to have.
Exactly. Like that's why I admire women who participate in consistent self-care
Yeah.
and consistent self-reflection. Because if they're
Mm,
already doing it on their own, then you're not responsible for that, right? They start to understand that it's not my job to make you happy, right? It's your job to make you happy. It's my job to create an environment where happiness can flourish and where it can exist. So I totally get you, man. We don't want to hurt feelings, so we don't say nothing. But guess what? If we don't say anything, it's counterproductive now.
yeah.
We don't say
Yeah.
anything, and now we just frustrated about it. I'll hear men. I'll have clients come to me, Chuck, and they'll be complaining about something about their wife. And the first question I ask is, "Well, have you told her?" And they're like, "Nah, no, I haven't told her. I would never." So how long has it been going on? Okay, about a year, about 2 years. Well, just like us, sometimes women just need to know. They need to be made aware of the things that's not serving you well. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so I
Right.
think it's got to be, but that's the beauty of marriage is you got to be or a relationship. You got to be vulnerable enough to receive and to give.
So back to the very first question. What's the part of being a husband that you wish there was a continuous playbook for?
Is that is what we
He
just talked
said
about?
that.
That's what I wish it was. Like it's managing. I'll call it managing emotions, because
Yes.
that's the part. Because we're like most men. Like men can be temperamental, right? We
Right.
can be,
Right.
depending on what's going on in our life. But a lot of women are. They got hormones out the wazoo, and so you see this,
Yeah.
and learning how to navigate that is not an easy task for a man.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, dude, my wife will come in the house sometime, and if I can just smell her energy off, I can feel it. Her energy's off. And then
Yes.
I say something, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? That kind of thing. And first thing she's like, nothing. I'm like you set the
Okay.
tone in the
Okay.
house. You set the tone of energy in this house.
Yeah.
So when I'm concerned, I need to understand that. And there's no playbook for that, dude.
Yeah, and you can't call out the hormones. Like for the
Mm-mm.
women that are listening to this, these are the things that men are going through when we're saying nothing and when we're saying never mind, let it go, or we just go pour that double shot and
Mm-hmm.
watch Sports Center. These are the things that we're processing because we don't get to call out the hormones. We can't call out the cycle, time of
Nope.
the month. Like we can't do those things
Mm-hmm.
as uh, preeminent as they may be,
Yeah.
right? We can't really call those things out. And so now we're juggling, do we want to argue? Could this be an argument? Like we have to juggle all of those things. So I think if I was to answer that question, the thing that I wish came with a perennial playbook for being a husband is I wish there was a purely just a managing expectations playbook.
I like it.
I,
I
I
like
I
it.
really do, and I think that I've done a good job, right? Because we're still
Mm-hmm.
married,
Mm-hmm.
but to have all the daughters and the wife, I wish there was a way that not only could I be coached and taught to manage theirs, but to
Mm-hmm.
also manage mine while I'm managing theirs.
Ooh, man, you should write the book.
No pressure, right? Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
should just go and write the book.
I may have to write it. I'll do a contributing couple of pages,
I
right?
got you.
Because on that one, that's imposter syndrome for me because I know I don't have the answer, right? For me, it's compartmentalized, double shot, coffee, workout, we good,
Uh-huh.
right? And reset tomorrow. But I know, there's obviously deeper parts to that, and that's not the answer. But I think that's the part that I struggle with the most is because every marriage is a little bit different.
Hmm.
So what works for Troy and managing Troy's wife's emotions and then dealing with Kinsley, and you're like,
Hmm.
those things are hard, or um, for me to see, because that's what works on your end.
Yeah.
But those things may not work for Chuck and his wife. So I think that's the hardest part. The other part is that I got asked on that same podcast is, how did I know? And this is, we all men get this question, but
Hmm.
how did I know that she was the one? So I'll ask you,
Okay.
how long did it take you to know that you found the one?
So, bluntly answer that, I knew she was the one within the first probably 2 to 3 times of being in her presence. I knew
Okay.
that. Now that doesn't mean I knew I wanted to marry her. So I think we
Okay.
gotta separate the two things, right? So when I say the one, that's totally different than I want to be in a long term relationship. You can feel something for someone and not be in a relationship with them, right?
Yes,
So let's
absolutely.
decipher those two. But for me, man, it was a couple things, man. Number one was I always talk about this aura she had. So it's this energy. It was
Yeah.
that energy where she walked in the room, she filled it up, and with her presence, without saying a whole lot, but she filled the room up, and I could tell by the wall it was a confidence. It was something where you could
Yes.
feel that spirit, and you're like, I'm drawn to that, right?
Yeah.
I was drawn to it. Then you take it to the next level and you start having conversations,
Okay.
and when you start talking about the conversations, all our values aligned. We had so much in common. We had what they call homogamy, a similarities. So you got a lot of similarities going.
Okay.
And I just felt her vibe. Her vibe was dope. It was just and men say this a lot, and women don't believe it. But men, when they find the one, the first thing they say is, "It's something. It's just something about her. It's something about her energy."
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And
I
that's
said the
people
same
don't
thing. I was
understand it.
like, it felt like a vacation when I was around her.
That's it. And I could talk to you all
Yeah.
day, and it was no pressure, and it was just organic. Like when it
Yeah.
was, I always say, when it's right, it's easy, right? And
Yes.
that's how it was. So I knew from that, I was like, I could see myself having these conversations with her every day of my life.
Now, how long did it take you to convince her
Hmm.
that she was the one?
Yeah, and so I didn't have to do too much convincing. Now, here's the backstory.
Sure.
My wife and I, when I first met her, she wasn't necessarily single. You see what I
Okay.
mean? Like, so she was kind
Necessarily.
of
You sound like
she,
Terrence Howard in
yeah,
that movie.
she was kind of in one of them. She was in in something with someone.
Yeah.
But eventually that ended, and then we became, we started to date. And so
Okay.
she actually, if I'm being honest, she approached me in a way.
Okay.
I guess she
Okay.
felt some of the same things, right? So
Yeah.
in a way, we remember like it was yesterday. We were in college, right? And she used to pass by my desk. We worked in the same building, like these work
Okay.
study jobs. And she used to
Yeah.
walk by my desk, and I used to catch a vibe from her, never said a word to her, right?
Sure.
So one day I get this phone call in my room on the little phones you had in the dorm,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and she left a message, and she was like, I just want to say I hope you have a great fall break. If you know this voice, then you call me back or something like that. So it was one of these things where she randomly sent me this thing, and I knew she didn't give me her name. There's no
Mm.
name. She just left the number,
Yeah.
and I knew exactly who it was because I knew that voice, I knew that energy, and that was
Yes.
kind of the beginning of the end.
I
That was
love
it.
it. I love it. I'm a fan of love stories. I'm probably the one guy that will freely admit that I love a good love story.
Mhm.
Because I like the process of it, right? And so,
Yeah,
I talked about the last time we talked about how uh, you can watch a good song can tell you how a love story goes, right? You let everything
absolutely.
build up.
It builds
Uh,
up.
yeah, so I love that part. Um, if
Hold on
I'm,
real quick. Check
yes,
check
yes,
this. Check this. I don't want to leave this part out for
okay,
whoever's listening, right? Because a part of this key part of the story, because people find this kind of cool. The first time she ever walked past my desk, right?
yes,
First thing I ever said to her was, "So when we get married?" It was the first thing I ever said. First
wow.
thing out of my mouth to her was, "So when we get married?" And she rolled her eyes and walked away. Like she thought it was the corniest thing that a guy could ever say to you.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So if it tells you anything about the point I was trying to make is I think I knew internally before I knew.
You
You see what
know,
I mean?
so you're not gonna, dude. This is so crazy. When I met my wife, we would talk on the phone. Of course, I was doing my thing in Oakland, sideshows and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I would page her when I got in from
Uh-huh.
running the streets.
Uh-huh.
And this before the first date, before we ever did the first date, back then IHOP was like the go-to.
Uh-huh.
And so I told her, I said, if you ever go to IHOP with me, we get married.
There we go.
We went everywhere but IHOP for so long that I was
Uh-huh.
like, I was just playing, right? Like we could go to IHOP. It's okay.
Yeah.
We went to IHOP. That was it.
It was a wrap.
It was it. I just knew. I just knew what it was. The part of social media that bothers me in terms of relationships, or that I wish we would get better at, is at admitting that I know that I found the one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even if the one got away, even if um, you know, the relationship didn't work out, like enjoy the chase of,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the process of, you know, finding that love story
Yeah.
versus downing it and saying, "Oh, this is trash."
Dude.
It's the representative for the first week. It doesn't, like,
Mm-hmm.
we get that part, but
Yeah.
enjoy it because you can learn a lot from that process.
Well, a lot of people, Chuck, they're dating and not learning anything about themselves because they're so focused on everybody else and what they're doing wrong, right? Oh, well,
Hmm.
he didn't pick up the check, or he didn't call me, he didn't text me, or she didn't, she was born, whatever people say about each other.
Yes.
But we don't ever step back and say, what could I have done better in this date? What am I discovering about myself? Am I discovering about what I do want, what I don't want? I guess self-reflection questions, they're not easy to do, and they're not easy to post either.
They're
You know,
definitely not easy to post.
it's not easy to post, and it's not popular. It's not popular to say, "Well, I did this wrong." It's popular to say men are trash or women
Yes.
are gold diggers or whatever the popular stuff people say, because all the what do you call people that snap at the people that
The
snap at the
poets.
poetry? Yeah,
Yeah.
all those people come in and snap with you, right? And so
Right.
that's fun. But what's not fun is challenging people, right, to be better. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we got to get to, is like, what is the journey? I love what you said, man. It's like, what's the journey like? Because the journey can be fun. The
Yeah.
journey can be good. If you don't go out here just choosing anybody and sleeping with everybody, it can be fun.
Right. Right. That's a different journey.
That's a different
That's a
journey, because
different
that's how you
journey.
get hurt right there, when you're doing that kind of stuff
Yeah.
consistently.
I had the joy of, my daughter's probably going to kill me, but I had the joy of speaking to one of my daughter's first boyfriends.
Okay.
She's in
Okay.
college. She's in
Hmm.
college, and I think as a father, so I'm gonna give you some game on this one because
Okay.
you got some
Put it
time,
on me, because
right?
I'm
Mine are older.
terrified.
Trust me, I am too. But I'll tell you, the fact that it was them that initiated it
Hmm.
gave me some hope. My daughter was like, "Hey, I want you to meet this guy,"
Okay.
and I said to myself, "Why?" Like,
Hmm.
because I know early relationships very rarely last to the
Hmm.
point of, where we are today. But I thought about it, and just like you always say, there's so much noise out there that
Hmm.
there was something that we planted in her young. So
Hmm.
she was like, "You know what, Dad, I want you to meet this guy."
Okay.
Now, here's the part that upset me. Here's the part. Troy, walk me through this.
Hmm.
How come? How come all and you may see this with your clients, right?
Hmm.
Wives, turn this off. Don't listen to this part. Why is it that all the good guys tend to remind them of you?
Mm. You know what? That's a good question.
Like, why? Okay, so we both have car sales in the background, right? That's how I
Hmm.
started. I quit college because my professor told me if I did everything right, I could make $35,000 a year. I'm like, dude, I did that last month selling cars. This is not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
But so now this young man is selling cars or whatever the case is. Great company that he works for as well. Um, but I just try to, like, this is my second daughter that's been like, Dad, he reminds me of you. Now, mind you, the first one, that relationship didn't work,
Hmm.
right? So now I'm
Yeah.
like, how much of me did he remind you?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right? Because it didn't work. And I know that they look to find similarities, right? But what is it about that when your clients come to you and say, "Oh, but Troy, this one might be the one. He reminds me so much of you and your temperament." Like, what
Hmm.
happens there?
Dude, so I think what people chase the most is familiarity, right?
Mm,
So as humans, we want familiarity. It makes us feel safe.
okay.
Hence the reason we'll stay in a toxic relationship even if it's just familiar, right?
Yeah.
Because it's familiar to us, right? So I think that's one part working. The other part of it is I don't think we do enough self-reflection to understand what we truly need in a mate. So when you're young
Mm,
like that, do you really know what you need, right, in a mate? So what you go
yeah.
to is what's familiar to you. Hence, like a lot of toxic fathers, their daughters will go choose toxic men because
Yes.
it's familiar. So hence your daughter, she goes and finds a safe man that sells cars that is
Right.
familiar to her. It's like, okay, I can
Gainfully
predict
employed,
this.
all that good stuff.
There
Yeah.
you go. I can predict this, when really relationships are about, what do I need? Do our values align? Do our intentions align? Are we compatible? But when you're young, you really don't know that stuff. I mean, I got lucky, dude. I got lucky. Just I didn't know this stuff. I just got lucky that my wife happened to share a lot of these things, that
Right.
I need in a spouse. But there was no playbook to it. No one told me how to choose a mate at all. So guess what? Now here's the thing. She is
Yes.
a little similar to my mother
Really?
in a lot of ways. She's got some similarities in terms of her caring nature, her intelligence, her confidence, like all these different things. They're familiar to me because my mother was kind of like that. But then there's some other ways that she had that my mom had that I thought were detrimental to my mother that I didn't like that Tiffany had as well. And
Okay.
so we had to talk about some of those things like setting effective boundaries. My mom didn't do that well, and I saw
Mm,
a point where my wife wasn't doing that well with her, friends or family or whatever it might be. So,
yeah.
it's just that dance, man. So, needless to say, Chuck, it's not a bad thing that she wants people that's like you. It's not a bad thing at all. It's just you did a good job of raising her. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
I hope so, man. I'll tell you, there's no bigger fear, I think, for a father that has daughters, an active father that has daughters. There's no bigger fear than knowing that she's put her heart with somebody else.
Ooh. Did she go through the bad boy stage though?
Yes and no. She Her bad boy stage is the one she won't tell me about. She'll tell my wife,
Gotcha. Okay,
right?
for
This
sure.
is the
Yeah.
guy that won't do XYZ, and we went on a date and he didn't pay, and like all those stories come back to me, but those aren't the ones that she brings to me. And I think because she doesn't want me, riled up, right? But I think the other part is she's only willing because of what we've done. All of my daughters, they're
Hmm.
only willing to go so far into the bad boy stage
Yeah.
because they haven't seen, right? I don't think they've seen me do anything detrimental to their mother,
Hmm.
right? They haven't seen me hanging out all hours of the night, not coming home, drunk on the bed, like they haven't
Hmm.
seen any of those things. So I don't think that they're willing to entertain that type of behavior past a certain point,
Yeah.
right? Now, of course, they've heard the war stories because my oldest daughter's 25, right?
Yeah.
So they've
Hmm.
heard the war stories of old Chuck and my
Yeah.
dad and that family and all that stuff, but I don't think they'd share the bad boy stage with me.
That's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. I mean, because usually they're just doing it despite their dad at some point. It's
Mm,
just like, but they always tend to come back to what's, homeostatic, right? And what's
yeah,
normal. That's what you hope anyway. You hope that you've done my hope is as a father that I
yeah.
do just a good enough job to set an example that she says, okay, if I got a default, I can
Yeah.
default back to what dad was like. That's what I hope.
It's reminded me of what Chris Tucker said. All you can do as a dad is try to keep her off the phone.
That's it. That's it, man. It terrifies me, dude. It terrifies me. But I know at some point
Yeah,
she's gonna want what she wants.
right. And all you can do is support them to that point. So let me ask you, early dating, how often do you talk about the value of consistency?
Oh man, all the time. It is like, to me, it's probably the number one predictor of relationship success in the beginning. Because
Okay.
I mean, if you really peel it back, consistency is everything because it shows interest. Number one,
Yes.
consistent effort shows the level of interest. Number one. Number two, it's the only way to truly get to know someone. You have to consistently be in communication with them, consistently be going on dates, consistently be talking on the phone. There's no other way. This is the thing about dating. There's no shortcuts.
Right.
It's People take time. And if you don't have consistency, it's like people
Yeah.
say, I'm dating somebody, and they'll be like, oh, I talk to them like, once or twice a week, we text. I'm like, you ain't dating nobody. What you're doing is you're just having a informal relationship, is what you're having. You
Right.
see what I mean? So to me, because I always tell my clients, like, if the person you're dating is inconsistent, then they're not interested.
Mm,
Because I've never seen, you tell me if I'm wrong, Chuck, but I've never had a woman in my life where I was truly just into, say, if I was single, right? I was
Yes.
single, ready to do, ready to talk to them,
Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
that I truly liked, that I was inconsistent with. I don't know many men, you
Right.
can tell me, but I don't know many men that have done that,
Yeah.
consistently with women in their life. What about
No,
you?
once we're locked in, we're locked in. Like that's what we want. We're chasing.
We're chasing. And I think that's it's we try to make this stuff rocket science.
Yeah.
And it's really not rocket science. When someone says, it's the same thing with women, right? Women are very consistent with men that they want to talk to if they don't have other stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell women and men, when it's right, it's easy. You don't have to beg someone or convince someone to call you. I couldn't wait to talk to a girl that I was interested in.
Right.
You trying to figure out when not to text her or call her because you don't want to seem too desperate, right? It's like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's the truth, I think.
He said, I think. So how does Troy, how does that transition to marriage? Right? What does
Mhm.
consistency look like when you're married, when you got kids running around, when you got the job and the business? What does consistency look like there?
To me, consistency in marriage becomes about intentionality. So
Okay.
once you kind of get through the dating phase and the relationship phase, because what you just mentioned happens, adulting happens. So now I
Yeah.
got the job, I got the kids, I got all these other responsibility. Now
Right.
consistency looks like intentionality about being consistent. So it's almost like tricking yourself into being consistent. So where
Mm,
you're falling off, you have to almost plan stuff. You have to plan stuff in a way like date night,
right.
vacations. You have to plan phone conversations. Now everything has to be intentionally planned because
Right.
it's not spontaneous like it was. It was spontaneous before because you didn't have all the responsibilities.
Yeah.
Now you got a bunch of responsibilities. So how do I take my calendar and schedule it in? Like that's why now I need to schedule this in, and I have to almost schedule in spontaneity. That's what
Wow.
I have. I call it scheduling spontaneity. She don't have to know his schedule. I just know.
You just
I
get the
just know.
reminder on your phone
I
to
just
go
get a
chase her
reminder.
in the kitchen.
There you go. I get a
Yeah.
reminder on my phone. Okay, I need to send flowers today, or
Yeah.
I haven't done anything. So I need to write a note and put it on a card. Like things that came kind of natural in that phase before adulting happened. You have
Yes.
to you have to almost trick yourself into doing them again. It's not saying it's disingenuous. I don't want people to think that, right? I don't think it's about being
No.
disingenuous. I just think life changes. The seasons change.
I think the act of intentionally setting the reminder for yourself is the part that takes away the fact that it could be disingenuous at all. Right. So
Yes.
like one of my greatest cheat codes that I'm about to release to the world, right?
Okay.
Never
I'm taking
before
notes. Let me
done.
get my pen.
Yeah, yeah. Drum roll, all that. This is why I will forever be a Samsung person. And Apple may allow you to do this,
Hmm.
but on the simple, I'm a low tech, high tech person.
Uh-huh.
On my Samsung, I can schedule text messages. And and I will schedule text messages to my wife at the most random of times and
Hmm.
say different things. Some will be flashbacks, some will be
Hmm.
reminders, some will be I
Hmm.
got dinner tonight. Like sometimes I surprise myself, like, oh crap, I'm cooking.
Yeah.
Um, right, like I said that. But because I'm able to do this, that it takes that spontaneity or that I want not the spontaneity, it appears spontaneous,
Yes.
right? But I planned it,
Yep.
right? And because I planned it, now she knows she's crossed my mind in more than just what's for dinner, babe.
Yeah.
What we doing tonight?
Yeah.
Are we watching that movie? We watching our shows? We working on the business? We looking at real estate? Like all of that gets taken away because now I've sent something, you know, crazy. And to all the married people that are listening to this, all the people that are, in relationships with,
Mhm.
possible kids around, don't let the kids get the phone when the
Yeah.
husband, because listen, my
Might get some stuff. Might be some stuff
listen,
coming through there. I don't need to see.
my daughter might be scarred, right? One, she might. I told the
Tell her to
wife,
stay out of
stop
grown
getting,
folk business.
stay out. I told her, I said, listen, man, stay out your mama phone.
Yeah. This
Especially
ain't
when
for
I'm at
you.
home by myself and she got y'all like yeah. So let's
I ain't
real.
mad at you, man. I am not mad
Listen,
at you. You gave the cheat code. I appreciate. And but think about it. No one's teaching people this stuff. And so what ultimately
right?
happens? You get into a marriage or a relationship, and now the newness wore off, right? So the
Yes.
newness of the spontaneity wore off. So no one teaches you what to do next. And so guess what happens? You think we grew apart. That's the number one thing
Right.
you hear from. Oh, we're just growing apart. It's not that you're growing apart. It's just that you're not doing what it takes to stay connected. And that's the difference. And intentional people with good information and good mentors and things like that, they can have these conversations. The
Yeah.
average person doesn't have these conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will say this. I said it on the episode that I was on. My father is the greatest example of a married man that I can ever watch, because he would, to this day, he still chases my mother around the kitchen. Right?
Hmm.
It's I don't want to see it no more.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? But now I get it. Right now, I get the little playful jabs that they have back at each other,
Hmm.
and all the stuff that I watched him do have now become second nature, and I understand the thought process behind them now.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that's how they've gotten to 30, 40 years of marriage, is because they still have fun.
Man, dude, people want to feel seen, man. Outside of, I put that on my Instagram page yesterday. People, your mate still wants you to see them beyond
Yes.
partner and parent, beyond just partner and parent. Do you see them?
Yeah.
That's what people want to feel long term. That's why we feel like we grow apart, because we don't feel seen. You know what I mean?
So we we're gonna take one of the filters off of this episode. We're gonna take
Let's
one of the
do it.
filters
Let's do it.
off. Remember when you did the steak and blowjob,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
the steak and blowjob holiday, which is an actual holiday,
Actual holiday, yes.
right? There are still women out there that don't believe it's an actual holiday. Now, there's some debates on when that day is, because I thought it
Hmm.
was the day after Valentine's Day, and
Uh-huh.
you've now given me the game. It's actually,
A month
what
later.
is it? Yeah, it's a month later.
Hmm.
But there are women that don't think it's a real holiday, nor feel like they're obligated to celebrate that type of day. What do you say
Uh-huh.
to that woman?
I say to that woman, look at the bigger picture. Right? It's
Mm.
not about steak and a blowjob. It is, but it isn't.
I almost
It,
spit out my coffee
it,
cup. Yes, yes, it
it
is.
is, but the bigger picture is that man wants to be made to feel special.
Yeah,
Right? He wants to be made to be seen, to matter, to be served. You
right.
see what I mean? And we don't always get that, because what have we been taught our whole life? Happy life, happy wife, happy
Happy
life.
wife, happy life. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it should be happy house, happy spouse. That's what it should be. But a happy spouse, happy house. But it's not. That's not how it looks. It looks like men are supposed to serve women, and women and men kind of get the leftovers, right?
yeah,
Occasionally, I might, cook you a special meal or something like that. But what I
yes,
want to challenge partners to do, because now more than ever, relationships are equal, right?
yeah,
It's the gender roles have kind of gone out the window. So if that's the case, I want women to be just as intentional about serving their men as men should be about serving their women. If we both do that, then we'll be
yeah,
happy.
yeah. Absolutely agree. And I think that I think that most men tend to be um, initiators, right?
Hmm.
Because we're visual, right? You
Yep.
watch your wife or you watch your girl get dressed, and all you see is,
Yeah.
yeah, all you see is the greatness that you have been afforded, in your
Uh-huh.
household. Um, but to that point, I think because men initiate so much, there's this gap where I think single women will always talk about how much they initiate,
Yes.
right? They'll
Yes.
always talk about how much they
Hmm.
initiate. Married women, granted, it's not everybody's business, but
Hmm.
they seldomly are heard from in that realm of what they do to make their men feel seen.
Yes. I always ask this question, dude. Do women hold each other accountable the way that men do sometimes, right? So
They
always
can't. They
they
can't. So I want you. Oh my God, I want you to finish that one. But they
no, go ahead.
can't, because so often there's only one woman that's married in the clique, or
That's very true.
two out of six. The six great
Hmm.
friends, only two of them are married, so they can't. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the whole point of that
Talking in my
is
high voice.
no, but that's the whole point is like I really feel, and if I'm in my circle of friends,
Yeah.
and we're men and we're talking and they're complaining about, okay, I'm not having sex, blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, what are you doing to encourage that? When last time you done this? When last time you done that? You tried this, you tried that.
Yeah.
What have you done first? And then after we've walked through those things, now I can empathize with you. You see what I mean? So
Yes.
I've held you accountable in a way first before, and then if you checked all those boxes, now it's a whole different conversation.
Right.
And I think men are a little more comfortable doing that kind of thing. I just don't know how comfortable women are having those kind of conversations. And when it comes back to the initiation thing, so women have gotten so used to us initiating, especially married women, right? Because think about it, sex is like how we stay connected with women,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for us, we view it while they stay connected more mentally and emotionally.
Right.
So God kind of played this trick on us, right? Where God was like, I'm just gonna make y'all total opposites of
Right.
how y'all do this thing. You see what I mean? And
Yes.
so, for a woman, you always hear women say this. You probably hear them say it all the time. It's like, well, he didn't do anything to make me want to, you know.
Right.
Whereas, for us, I just wake up in the morning and I want to.
Right. 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 Absolutely. It's like, have you seen you? Like,
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
yeah, yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
So
get
yeah,
you.
so that's kind of where we are, man. It's just initiation is a tough thing. That's probably the number one complaint I get from men
Really,
about women. Number one
really.
is lack of initiation of sex from their spouse.
We're gonna have to start a therapy group for the men, right?
Yes.
Because I think that, there's all of the married men that I know
Hmm.
speak glowingly about their wives.
Hmm.
But when we get to the barbershop,
It's a different conversation.
it's a different conversation, right?
Hmm.
And I think that all men are guilty of that. Like even my dad, he speaks glowingly about my mother, but when it's just me and him and we in the man cave, he like, boy, if your mama don't stop telling me about XYZ,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna burn the whole house down. Like, so I think we gotta have that. Let me ask you this, because I
Yeah,
got a few more that we gotta get to.
yeah. Go ahead, man.
Obviously,
I got
we
time.
can do this forever. Someone asked me if this was true, in regards to how we talked about relationships and managing expectations. The person that cares the least about the relationship has the most power in it. And I'm guessing that they mean, there's always that one person that's just fine being alone,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? The person that cares the least about the relationship or being in one has the most power in it.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the statement. I think that comes down more to attachment styles than anything else. You
Okay.
see what I mean? So if you got like an avoidant person, an anxious avoidant person, they have that kind of attachment style. They're gonna avoid things like so they don't securely attach all the
Mm,
time. So it may seem like it may come off like they don't care,
yeah.
but at the same time, they probably deeply do care. They just don't know how to show it. And so what I would say is that secure attachments, a secure attachment style,
Yeah.
that's going to create the best relationship, right? Because both people are secure with themselves and they're secure with each other. You see what I
Absolutely.
mean? I just think people make statements like that because that other person can be a little nonchalant and they feel like they could walk away at any time. But think about what's that episode of Martin where Martin's acting like he was gonna leave?
Oh yeah, when he was gonna
Uh,
step,
yeah,
and then
that episode. That's what most
yes,
people end up
yes,
looking like anyway. They act like they don't care, but
yeah,
they care. You know when someone cares and when they don't care. So I don't believe like I don't even believe in the power dynamics in a relationship like that. I don't necessarily subscribe to one person being more powerful in the relationship. I just think it's levels of who's willing to deal with what. That's
mm,
it. Who's willing to deal with what, and then who's willing to sacrifice more. Those are what
yeah,
power dynamics look like to me in a relationship. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can agree that the person that cares and if you're with a person that cares less, why are you with them?
right, right, yeah. I think that's the ultimate part of it is back to managing expectations,
Hmm.
right? What happens when that person is no longer willing to do X, Y, Z?
Hmm.
So yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I got a question about I think we touched on this the last time too.
Hmm.
Men that are intimidated by successful women.
Hmm.
A woman wrote in. She says, "I recently bought a house, and during dating living situations come up, and it seems that my home ownership intimidates men."
Ooh. So the number one question, the first question I would have is how old is she, which you may not know. Um,
Yeah, yeah. We
yeah,
can't
because
ask that.
yeah, you can't ask that question. But here's what I tell people, man. Like this conversation is so tired to me. I'm so tired of this conversation. You want to know why?
Do tell.
Because we really feel like being adults makes us like intimidating. Like you having a house and a car doesn't make you like some first round draft pick, right? That makes you it makes you an adult,
Right.
right? That's literally what it makes you. So the question I always ask them when they come to me with stuff like this, I'm like, what are you leading with? What energy are you leading with?
Mm,
Right. So is the energy very masculine? Because here's what women don't realize, and we get into masculinity and femininity, is that women, a lot of modern women, like today's women, they lead with very masculine things like accomplishments, like what I have, the things I do, the bag I'm
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
And that gives off very masculine energy. And a lot of men, they look at that and they're turned off by it. So sometimes men being turned off is being seen as intimidated. You see what I mean? Turned off and intimidated are two different things. And
Yeah.
so we have to challenge that. And I'm not saying that some men can't be like that. Some men, they can be very
Absolutely.
insecure. But I think if we looked at it like a bell curve, it would be a bell curve, right? Most
Okay.
men kind of fall in this middle where they're not that intimidated by this.
Yeah.
They're actually happy because now I don't have to take care of you.
Right.
I don't have to
Right.
take care of you. You ain't gonna be trying to move into my house.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
Yes. Yes.
secure men are intimidated by that kind of stuff. Insecure men, yeah, and guess what? Now you know if that's the case. But I always challenge women, man, change your approach, change what you're leading with first before you complain to me about that.
When I got that question, it made me think of social media being how women do things for other women to see,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Women will post. I told a friend of mine, men don't care about the eyelashes. We don't
Nope.
care one bit. Like I haven't seen a pair yet that I was just like, that's the woman, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Even my wife, I've
Those are them
she
eyelashes.
wish, yeah, because of them eyelashes, right? So women do things for other women, right? They'll post the pictures, they'll post the vacation, they'll post the lashes and the date with only one plate, right? You only get the one plate in the
Mm-hmm.
picture. Like
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um now mind you, they probably had dinner with each other, right? The girls. Yeah,
Both of them. Both of
we
them
know that
together.
one, ladies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so my thing is you lead with in your dating process, you lead with the things that impress other women.
Yeah.
And to your point, men don't care. I don't know a man, period, that 3, 4 dates in even cares that you own your own home.
No.
Right? Because we've decided that we were excited about you from the gate. And so if it gets to that point and we have that conversation and find out that you're a homeowner, okay, great. Like you said, now I don't have to sell mine and you don't have to, we don't worry about
Moving
you
with me.
moving in. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've now created a portfolio, right?
There
So
you
it's an
go.
added bonus. And if you don't have one, guess what? I do. Or I'm looking to get one and we can build together. Like men are not built on accomplishments when it comes to dating,
Nope. Not
right?
at
And
all.
I think because women tend to approach every possible relationship in mass. Here's my politically correct part. Most women
Yep.
will approach a date by saying this could be the one. I'm gonna see where he goes. He does XYZ, and most men are like, "Yeah, she was clean. I'm gonna see what happens."
That's it. It's totally
And
different approaches. Our approaches are totally different, man. I did my most popular Instagram IGTV video is called seven. It says men have spoken, 7 feminine traits that men admire in women. When I
yes,
tell you, it's opened up the eyes of so many women to understand what you think you're leading with is not what's attracting the type of people that you're trying to go after. Like the
right,
stuff you're leading, it doesn't. It's the feminine stuff. It's this. Like I'll leave the date thinking, did she smell good? Did she look good? What was the
yeah,
conversation like? Was she feminine? Was she? What was her energy like? Not
right.
does she have a house?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't care what job she had. I didn't, I don't even think when I was dating my wife, I don't even think I ever even asked her what she did.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
think not once, and maybe we were maybe 6 months, almost a year in before I even cared.
Hmm. Yep. I'm with you. How do we get here though? How do we get here where turned off and intimidated are the same thing? Like that is the default answer to almost every successful women I talk to. That's the default answer. Like how
Because they're
everybody
talking to
intimidated.
other single women. They're talking to other single women, and I don't necessarily blame them because
Hmm.
like attracts like, right? Like
Yep.
we said, only 2 out of the 6 are going to be married anyway,
Yeah.
and we wish that it was 6 out of 6 so that you have a better collection of knowledge that you can get ideas from. But they're talking to other single women, then they jump online and they're watching Instagram and social media, and then here's the worst part to me:
Hmm.
they talk to other single women,
Uh-huh.
then they go online, and then they go turn on Real Housewives.
Oh, it's over.
Yeah,
Just throw the
so
whole, just throw it all away.
throw the whole man away at this
Yeah.
point, right? Because you've now triple reinforced that men are no good.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, it's you're attracted to the same type of man each time, and you know that the same place you met that other man just like that,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't work.
And that's your type. And so because that's your
Yes,
type, you can't and you don't want to settle. That's the other key word, right? I don't want to settle for
right.
something other than my type. And then now all of a sudden you can't get what you need in life or in a mate, and you wonder why. So it's
Oh, because the type now has it, the type has become a checklist. If he don't have X, Y, Z,
mm-hmm,
then I
mm-hmm,
don't want to have. Okay, but so you don't want to build nothing?
yeah,
Like, I'm not saying that you should date and that you should date ambition,
mm-hmm,
but at some point, nobody's gonna have the entire complete package,
dude,
right? It's just not there. And so I think that it goes back to, like you said, managing expectations.
dude, that's the key takeaway right there is how do we manage these expectations because they have gotten out of hand, my man. They
Yeah.
have gotten out for men and for women. I mean, I think women have started. I mean, men have started to expect things of women that just aren't going to happen. I mean, they want them to be everything to everybody at all times. And I'm like,
Yes.
dude, what you looking for, Jesus? Like, who are you looking for? Like we got to manage all of our expectations and reflect on ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's hard to manage expectations. If there was one takeaway that I would want people to have from my end,
Hmm.
it's hard to manage expectations when you don't know what you are willing to take accountability for.
Ooh, that's a gem.
I think that, for myself, there are things that I know I don't do well.
Hmm.
And so those are things that I'm very sensitive to when they come up, in conversation. It's like, I know I don't do XYZ. Cool. I can now go to my Samsung, make myself a
Hmm.
reminder, you know what I mean? And I can send that text message, fire that off. Um, Last question. Well,
Yeah.
second to last.
Okay. No problem.
How do you propose that people deal with family members that don't endorse or support the person's relationship?
Ooh, man, that is a hard dynamic, man. So it comes down to a couple of things. Number one, how much does the person value their family? Because all families aren't created equal. There are some people
Well,
who
never
are
lie.
closer to their friends than they are their family.
Yes.
So how much do they value their family? And then number two, um, are you getting to the bottom of what the issue is? So many people just have this energy where it's like, I just don't like her. I just don't like
Yeah.
him. And guess what? You don't even understand the why. Like, what is it that's holding you back from building a relationship with this person? What is it? I need to understand. I need to uncover that. Right. The other thing is stop talking to your family. Like, stop
Yeah.
talking about your mate to your family because you and I both know what happens. The family don't forget.
Ever.
We forgive. Like, we're like, okay, we cool now. But the
Yeah.
family don't forget nothing. Don't forget anything about what you said about how bad he was, about how bad she was. Now they got a grudge. So you
Right.
can't do that. You can't. I mean, you can't. Like, this is probably, I would say, top five issues in relationships. This is
Yeah.
one of the top three probably is in-law issues.
Yes. Yes.
In-law issues are crazy. I never knew until I started coaching people, and I was like, this is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a thing. Even, and I'm nowhere near a coach.
Hmm.
But I get all the time the mama's boy,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
dating the mama's boy. And when you date the mama's boy, the mama has so much influence. And now you mad
Mhm.
at him and the mama, but you're staying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't I don't understand that part.
Dude, well, part of it is you overlooked it in the beginning because you wanted to get married so bad or because you wanted to be with that person so bad.
Yeah.
But this, if it was a small issue, then it was going to do nothing but grow. And mama's issues and daddy issues are very real things. I did a whole interview with a counselor on this, a therapist on that. And
Oh, okay.
they're very. If you go back to my page, I got one on daddy issues and one on mommy issues, and I
I
talked
love
to a
it.
licensed therapist about this stuff. It's real.
Yeah.
Mama's boys and daddy's issues are very real, and you have to help them understand what boundaries look like, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes one of the bad things is we don't ever talk. We have all these expectations that we never communicate,
Right.
and that is the issue so many times. So you mad at my mama, or you mad at how my relationship is with my mama, but you don't say anything about it. You just get mad.
Right.
I think it's cool. I'm like, oh, I talk to my mom all the time, blah blah blah, and you sitting there like, oh, I'm annoyed because he's talking to his mama again.
Right. Because you don't like your
It,
mom.
just because you don't like your mama, like you and your mama don't
Right.
talk a lot, so now you mad because I talk. It's funny. I had to understand that better because I'm not like I was not super. My mom passed away before I got married, like right before
I
I got
got you.
married.
Okay.
but I wasn't like a daily talker to my dad or my mom my whole life. But
Sure.
my wife, she was, she was like her family were a lot tighter, so they would talk all the time, and I'd be
Yes.
sitting there like, why y'all on the phone? Like, I was like, what is the deal here? And I had to understand the dynamic. I didn't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just
I
gotta
love
understand,
it.
man.
That is hilarious. How often in the dating world, I'm sure you get this question, how often do you address a thing before you leave the thing?
Ooh. It's like when to stay or when to go. That becomes
Yeah.
that when to stay or when to go. That is the question. And to me, it's if someone's not willing to adjust their behavior after you've consistently said it over a matter of time, I would say, say we had the same conversation, um, you know, 5 times about
Yeah.
something you do. It depends on the level of the offense.
Right.
Like, if it's I don't pick up my drawers off the floor. You gotta either adjust your behavior or adjust your expectations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But if it's something that's a core value to you,
Yes.
right? If it's something like ambition, or you don't want to go to work, or you don't manage your money well, or all these
Right.
things. If it's a core value thing, then I don't think you shouldn't be. Uh, I don't think you need to have that conversation multiple times. If
Yeah.
it's a small thing, I think you just adjust your behavior. Like, for example, the pick up your drawers thing. Look, if it bothers you that much, you pick them up. In the grand scheme of thing, is it really
They
that big of
still
a deal?
getting up off the floor. Right.
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 In the grand scheme of things, but you can't change the fact that somebody is a bum,
Right.
or they don't share the same spirituality as you, core value stuff. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So that's my
Yeah.
answer. It kind of depends on what the issue is, but I don't believe in this whole like repeating yourself over and over and over and over again with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think at some point, you either like you said, you either learn to deal with it or you change your behaviors. And our guy Paul. Paul
mhm,
is the king of core values and
mhm.
expectations. Like I think he wakes up reciting his core values.
That's his thing, man.
you
That's his
know,
thing.
and he one of the things that he says I asked him that question of what have you learned in business that you use in your relationship, and his thing was focus on everything that starts with P,
Mm,
right? And so he
that's
said
yep.
profitability.
Profitability. I know the other one.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
And so for me, my question is the same question to you. What have you learned in business that you use in your relationship and vice versa?
Yeah, man. So a few things. I've learned the value of sacrifice, right? Because for your
Yeah.
business, you have to sacrifice so much.
Yes.
To be great in business, there's no way around it. People always talk about balance and all this other kind of stuff. I've had to sacrifice many of conversations and late nights, doing work like this.
Right.
Sacrifice family time. I've sacrificed so much.
Yeah.
I understand serving, because in the business I'm in, I have to serve my community. I have
Yes.
to serve my clients. I have to serve, people that are buying things from me. So service is another big thing for me.
Yep.
Another thing I've learned is this idea of compromise. Like,
Mm.
there's no way in a business that you can be great at every single thing. So compromise
Right.
in a business could look like hiring someone else,
Right.
or bringing in help. Or it
Yeah.
could mean, maybe I don't do this part of the business as strong as I do this part of the business. So you have to compromise some things in order to make it work. Same thing in your
Yeah.
marriage, on the relationships. There's no way you can have everything 100% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me,
I,
those
I
are some key things.
I agree. I agree. What's if we had to give you three songs to be the soundtrack to your marriage
Ooh,
from your aspect? Because I know it's asking the wife for her three songs is that's a
uh-huh.
Rubik's cube, but your three songs to for the soundtrack to Troy's relationship, what would it be?
Mm, Let me see. Well, number one, I would have to say "Let's Get It On."
Let's do it.
Little
Let's
Marvin
do
Gaye,
it.
right? So
Gotta have Marvin in there.
gotta have Marvin in there. My wedding song, which was dang, what was the name? Freddie Jackson.
You are
Man,
my lady.
"You Are My Lady," right?
Okay.
You're
Okay.
everything I need. So that talks a little bit
I'm
about
gonna
how
send
it
you an
started.
invoice for that one because you can't mess
Yeah,
that song
I can't miss.
up.
Yep, Freddie Jackson, "You Are My Lady." Um, Man, mm, this is hard, dude. This is hard.
That's because we both music heads.
Now, here's a song where the title to me is everything. It may not be the content of the song, but the
Okay.
title is Jagged Edge. Can we be tight?
Mm,
That's one of my favorite songs of
okay.
all time. But I love what it means. Like, can we be tight? Right? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, friendship is like everything in a
Yeah.
marriage. Like,
Yeah.
to me, like all the other stuff is good and it goes up and down. But the one consistency is being tight as a friend.
Yeah. I will tell anybody that the easiest part of the beginning of this pandemic, when you just realized that you were being locked in the house, right?
Hmm.
Is that I loved who I was locked with.
That's it.
It was so, so still is so much fun, right?
Hmm.
And I told Paul this. I said, man, I haven't been in the same house for 24 hours in years.
Yeah.
Just with daily grind in years. So it was fun. Like you said, you took a step back to just enjoy the time.
Yeah, that's it, man. And when you got a good friend, I mean, I
Yeah.
really wish we preached friendship more when it came to a relationship, because all we think about is romanticized stuff.
Right.
But we all know this. Love is not enough, man. Like, love is just not enough for a long-term
No.
relationship or marriage. We expect so much of our mates that is unfair. It's really it really is unfair in
I'm
the modern
glad you
world.
said it. I'm glad you said it because it took a while for me. I I don't know if I'm a romantic at heart, right?
Hmm.
I do love love. I love a love story. I love the process of it. But for a while, when I was younger, I thought love was everything because
Hmm.
I didn't know what those other experiences were,
Hmm.
right? And so when you don't know what those other experiences are, they all fall under the umbrella of, well, love had to keep them together.
There, there you go.
No, that
Nope.
ain't it. Love
That
is
ain't,
about 40%, if that,
that's it.
of
Mhm.
of everything. Because
That's it.
like
Like is everything.
like is everything.
Like will make me come home, consistently. You know.
I love that. Like let makes me come home. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. That's why you see people pull up in the garage and start smoking for 20 minutes before they come in the house.
Hey, they be outside texting and smoking and drinking in the car, because they don't like who they're coming home to, and
Yeah.
I've never had that feeling where I just never liked coming to my house. You know what I mean? To see my
Yes.
wife. So I wish more people had those kind of conversations, man. That's why I do what I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we should do a men's panel and all we do is talk about the joy of being married.
That's it.
I think we should do
That's
one
it.
of those. Last question, and then I'll let you go because I always respect your time. I know you over there killing it. Um, the vision that you painted for your clients in terms of relationships, marriage, and managing expectations. How long did it take you to create that vision for yourself?
Man, okay, so here's the thing. So my mission of what I do is better people, better mates, better relationships, better community. So that's really what I
Yes.
do, right? And they all kind of come together. And
Yes.
so in my marriage, man, I feel like I've been doing it all along because it started with the better person part,
Okay.
right? So remember, better people first. And so I got my stuff together. I made sure I was doing the healing and the reflection. I made sure I had the career going. I made sure I was doing all those things to be a better version of myself.
Yeah.
See what I mean? And then, the better mates part happens, because I started studying relationships. You see what I mean?
Mm.
And so once I started studying relationships, not just for this, but just in life, because I'm a psych major, I'm a psychology guy, and so I've
Got you.
always I've
Okay.
always loved the study of human behavior. It's just one of the things I love doing. And then I
Yeah.
said, okay, what's next? We started studying relationships, and I understood from a cerebral point of view, but also from just a intuition point of view. I've understood the importance of relationships my whole life.
Mm.
You see what I mean? I never knew how big they were, how much of a part of the community they were. I just understood they were
Yes.
important.
Yes.
But now I see. I'm like, if we get relationships right, we get so many other things right in our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
You can really build Black Wall Street back up. You can
yes.
build so many things back up if the relationships are right. I totally agree. Wow.
Yeah, man.
I haven't looked at it like that.
Yeah, man. It's so I don't have like a clear cut answer per se about when it came. I just think it's been a process. I know I know when I was young, man, I had no idea because no one was giving me the knowledge. I
Right.
had to go seek it. I had to go seek it, which I would encourage anybody on the platform listening right now. It's like seek new information,
Yeah.
right? If you know what you're doing doesn't feel right and it's not serving you well, instead of just complaining to people about it, go and seek new information. I know you tell your business people all the time. Like that's why I love your podcast
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're bringing people on to help shorten the learning curve by new information. That's what you're
Absolutely.
doing. I love
Absolutely.
it,
Thank
man.
you, man. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been rocking with the great one, world famous, nationally recognized Troy Xklusive. Thank you so much for jumping on the show, man. I think we got to do it again. I think we got to
Whenever,
do it again because it
whenever.
it never fails that whenever we talk relationships, I know I'm going to get tons of questions. There's because of the time constraints. I know there's always something we forget to talk about. But most importantly, right now, let everybody know where they can find you online.
Oh man. So first things first, go to my Instagram page at Xklusive5. That's XKLUSIVE, the number 5. You see my daughter jumping in the back of this, which
Yep,
she's not
yep.
supposed to be doing. Back up, please. Excuse me.
That is
Excuse
so
me.
funny.
I mean, I can't. I tried to hold off as long as I could, but
They
but
run the house. We know that.
they run the house. And so exclusivethoughts.com. That's XKLUSIVE thoughts.com. That's where you can find the book. That's where you can find me on all platforms. But Instagram is where I do a lot of my content right now. Is Instagram. So exclusive five. Follow your boy, and make sure you subscribe to Hawk Vision podcast. I'm doing your work for you because that's what they need to do.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
Mhm.
your business, your thought process. Most importantly, thank you for being a visionary. Troy, this show wouldn't be where it is without you, man. I
Hey
definitely
man,
appreciate you.
I appreciate you anytime, brother. Anytime.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you've been rocking with the Hawk Vision podcast. Like, share, subscribe, all the stuff that we tell you to normally do. But most importantly, share this with other visionaries just like you. It's Hawk Vision. We'll see you guys either at the top or from the top.
Peace.